Hey YouTube, I'm Ali, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing Paladins of the West Kingdom. Super excited about this. Paladins is the second of three games by Shem Phillips and Sam McDonald, who, if you didn't know already, and damn it, why don't you, are being interviewed by moi. I'll put a link up here somewhere if you don't know that. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, this is a game, this is game two from a trilogy. The first being Architects of the West Kingdom, the third being Viscounts, and this one being Paladins. Now, why is it called Paladins? Well, Paladins are what the king has sent you as players to help him and help you, in fact, increase your strength, your influence, and your faith. You're going to be doing those things because this is a victory point game, and you're trying to increase those because they will enable you to win victory points. Now, they're actually going to enable you to unlock things in the game, and that's one of the things I like about this game. As you increase those three stats, you're going to be able to do more and more. And those things of which you are doing more are building outposts, fortifications, commissioning monks, fighting off invaders or converting them, in fact. You're doing a whole bunch of things, all the while aided by a select number of paladins. You're going to have one paladin each round. The game is played over 7 rounds. The one with the highest victory point total at the end of the 7th round is the winner. I would describe Paladins as a family game, but I'm going to steer you away from very young players. I think there's quite a lot of involvement in this game. It's quite an involved game. Lots of simple, but lots of them rules. And I think that's going to make it difficult for anyone under the age of maybe around 10, 12. So just bear that in mind. Nothing wrong with the subject, just quite involved. In terms of number of players, the box is 1 to 4. Board Game Geek and Board Game Atlas, I both think they say 2 players are best. I've not played it with 2 players, if I'm being honest, but we had an absolute blast playing it with 4 players. My recommendation is play it with 4. It's good fun that way. How long did the game take? Right, I think, and it's taken, every game we've played has taken about 3 hours. Now that sounds frightening, but it's a great 3 hours that you spend on there. So I would set aside between 2 and 3 hours, but honestly, err on the side of caution, go for 3 hours with 4 players. This is very much a board game, certainly not something you can play when traveling. There are a ton of components involved, and we're going to come on to those shortly, but yeah, very much a board game. For rules, I'm going to say this is quite a hard game. It took us well over 3 minutes to read the rulebook. I think it took something like 8 minutes to read the rulebook, not because the rules themselves are complicated. It's just that there are lots of simple rules. There are lots of facets to this game, lots of things you can do, and because of that, it took quite a while to read. So I'm going to call this hard by my definition. Now, in terms of complexity of game, well, I think this is quite a deep game. Again, there are so many things you can do and so many ways in which you can do them. It took us, I think, more than 15 minutes to explain the elements of the game to a new player, and therefore I'm definitely calling this deep. In terms of interactions, I'm going to say this is indirect conflict. You are all competing for certain things. There will be cards that come out that you're all going to vie for, but you aren't specifically targeting one person. So the conflict does exist. It's indirect. In terms of team play or single player, we've played it in pairs. So like many games, you can play this with 2 people playing one character and making decisions together. That's quite nice. But it is a solo play game. Sorry, it is a single person game, i.e. everyone's on their own, ideally. When it comes to mechanics, the 3 mechanics I'm going to go for are worker placement. You are definitely putting little meeples all over your own board as well as the main board. Engine building, well, this game is all about building an engine around either increasing your strength, your faith, or your influence, and in doing so being able to unlock and do more. And then the third one, I could have gone for marketplace, but I'm actually going to go for card drafting. A lot of the mechanics here revolve around dishing out new cards and playing with those cards appropriately to be able to act upon them. So you want to grab the right cards at the right time to increase either your influence, strength, or faith, and therefore be able to do more things. Now, the box itself is quite small and compact, which I really like, but it's a heavy box. This box is absolutely packed, and if you can see from the side, you can see a little white line there because it's showing the underlying box underneath. The lid does not fit when you've got everything packed in there. Now, I have bagged everything up, and that's probably one of the reasons why it doesn't all fit in there, but it is a heavy, compact box. Now, what do we get inside? Well, I'm just going to go through them here. You get a little bag, and again, you do get supplied bags, but they're very small bags. So we've gone and bought our own Ziploc bags. I keep looking down at the box. Sorry about that. In here, we've got coins and food tokens. They're used to unlock different actions. You're going to have to pay your way to do things. So, for example, if you want to convert someone or hire a peasant to be able to bring him onto your team to be able to do things, then you're going to have to pay. And you do that using these tokens here. The cards themselves, a majority of the cards are quite small. I'm picking up a whole variety here. Here there's a fortification card. They come in a little well, I put them in a little packet here. This is about the size of the Ziploc bag you get. There's some King's Orders. These are specific quests in effect. If you complete these, you can get some more victory points. There's some, I think these are called debt or notoriety. I can't quite remember what they're called, but they're basically every time you do something nefarious, like convert a little villager into a criminal, which you can do in this game as well, then you're going to be able to, you're going to have to take one of these. And if you have too many of these, you have to pay taxes or you get caught, and there's all kinds of things. These are deeds of debt that you've got in there as well. Like I say, this is an involved game. Now, the cards themselves are quite small. I'm not a fan of small cards. I've just commented how I like the box being compact. One thing I don't like, though, are small cards, and this is just a personal thing. These are your Paladin, no, it's not. These are more King's Orders cards. These are a spare deck. These are not a spare deck. These are an alternative deck for alternative play. There are different sets of modes of games in this box, and that's one of them. The meeples, though, now what I've done here is for each player will get their own player card, and they'll also get a set of meeples. The meeples are wooden chips. They're really nice. They're brightly coloured. I'm really okay with that. I do have a complaint, and the actual cards you get to play as a player are much bigger. So you can see that these are bigger cards. These are the Paladin cards, which you'll turn over each time. Each one has a strength, an influence, and a faith bonus that they may or may not give you, plus some other bits and pieces. This is the normal sort of playing card for debt and such like that. These are your Paladin cards, slightly bigger. I wish all the cards were this size, but I guess the box would be even bigger then. Lots of meeples, lots of things you can put onto your player board. There's a number of those, like I said, some outside attackers in that box. Again, a bigger card. There wasn't uniformity in the cards, is what I'm saying here. Peasant folk that you can hire to help. A whole bag of worker placement tokens, little meeples, little people. Now, one thing I didn't like about this is that in your own bag of monks, so these little black tokens here are monks that you can then go and put onto a main board. They're the same colour, i.e. black, as one of the meeples here. That bothers me. I wish they had chosen a different colour. Maybe these could have been yellow rather than black. It would have been very clear. You'd never mix them up. Now, we've separated the bags, which is why we're not mixing them up. But when you first start out, could be a bit confusing. Again, I've bagged up each of the players' cards. There's lots of them. Each round, you're going to be able to choose some workers to start and place. Those are shown on these little deck here. We finally come on to the rulebook. This is a hefty rulebook, and it's not in multi-languages. It's in the single language, but there's a lot to read here. That's why it took us so long. Well orchestrated, well explained. There are a couple of bits I would pick out, again, in the rulebook that I wasn't super happy about. A couple of indications aren't very clear. There's signs given on the cards sometimes that I couldn't find in the rulebook. A quick look up on Google, a quick look on Board Game Geek made perfect sense. Talking of which, a top tip if you do get this game, and I do personally think you should get this game, it's a great game, is printing out a little cheat sheet. So I went to Board Game Geek and printed this out. Someone had produced it. If I remember who, I'll link down below. But this was very useful in referencing. Now, when it comes to the boards themselves, each player board is quite significant and large. You can see here, I'm just making sure that it all fits on screen. There we go. It's double-sided, firstly, so there are two alternatives to the game. But fitting it on, there's plenty of stuff to go on here. This here is where your paladins go. Wrong side. This is the main playing board. That's the alternative play. There's plenty of space. Oh God, I can't even get it on screen. But anyway, tons of things to do. Big board. Big board is one of the issues I have. Now, the main board itself is two of these. And they don't join like that. They actually go across. The reason I have an issue with this board is I wish they'd made it big enough, and remember I've just complained about the size of the board here, but I wish they'd made it big enough to actually allow the cards to sit on the board. As it is, the cards sit above or below this board. One thing I will warn you of is this is a big game. I'm going to stick a couple of photos, if I can, on when it's played. It occupies a huge amount of space, so just bear that in mind. When you play with these components, when you play the game, you're going to have bits and pieces all over the shop. So Paladins is set in Francia in 900 AD. I think the artwork really reflected that. I think the mechanics of the game flowed well. You did feel like a nobleman trying to commission to do various things. That aspect, I think, worked really well. So top marks for theme and mechanics working together there. So, did I make meaningful decisions? Boy, do you make meaningful decisions in this game. Yes, all the time. Each round, and there's only 7 of them, has you thinking about what you should be concentrating your activities on. Should you be doing a lot of commissioning of monks, for example? Should you be increasing your faith and trying to win that? Do you think the king's going to be coming up with some orders specifically rewarding you for that task? Do you risk that or do you not? Do you go and spend your turn or your efforts, rather, gathering peasant folk and training them up and gathering their bonuses? Or do you want to go off and fight invaders? Maybe that's the right thing to do. Do you spend your key resources in building outposts or fortifications that again could help? A lot of decisions made, all of which influence and affect the end game. So yeah, really top marks on meaningful decisions there. When it comes to multiple paths to victory, really this boils down to increasing your strength, influence, or faith. Ideally 2, or ideally all 3, but normally sort of 2 out of the 3. Now, there are a huge variety of ways of doing this, and that's why I think there are multiple paths to victory here. There's different ways. Are you really going to push your faith values up to get those victory points by carrying out faith actions, or are you going to do strength actions, so fighting and fortifications and whatnot? Anyway, multiple paths to victory, yes, definitely. Are luck and skill balanced in this game? You definitely have a benefit, I think, as a seasoned player. As a seasoned player, you kind of understand what the Paladins can do when it's right to have part of the mechanics in this game is choosing which Paladin you're going to have for that round. I think a seasoned player will have a benefit of being able to do that. So there is a little bit of skill there that a seasoned player will benefit from. But again, it only takes a couple of games for you to pick that up, or even one game actually to pick that up. In terms of the luck factors, there's plenty of variety thrown in here. You're going to have decks of cards which are shuffled, and you're not always going to have the same king's quests that come up or the king's orders come up. So yes, I think there's plenty of luck there again, and I think they are well balanced. So yeah, good marks for that as well. Was I engaged? Boy, were you engaged. Yeah, absolutely. You're engaged. But I will say that you're engaged in your own activities. This is one of those games where there is so much for you to do. You do tend to spend a lot of time looking down at what you've got to do rather than looking at your opponents and seeing what they're up to. Now, that's one of the downsides to this game, I think, is that the engagement was just for you and the game rather than for you with everyone else. This is one of those games that you would probably not have if you wanted a light banter going on. So yeah, engagement, definitely, but really for you and the game. And finally, iconography and clear, legible text. Now, the text was legible and clear everywhere it needed to be. Iconography could be slightly better. Like I said, there were a couple of references where an icon was used that wasn't referenced in the rulebook, or at least we couldn't find it in the rulebook, and I had to go and look it up. That aside, there was only 1 or 2 of them. That aside, and they actually made sense once you'd read it. Once you read it, you go, oh yeah, of course, that means that. But there was something there. In terms of the artwork, I love the artwork on this. It really captures the feeling of the sort of early Francia period. I love the cartoony sort of sort of semi-serious drawings. Really good artwork on this. The actual feel of the game is great. I did mention about the boards not fitting the cards. What I meant by that, again, just to reiterate, is that there's no space on the board itself. You have to put them above or below the main board, which I don't like. So not top marks for iconography and clear, legible text, but pretty damn good anyway. Well, guys, I mean, I really like this game, but it's not for everyone. I totally get this. This is certainly not a party game. It's bordering on the edge of what we would call a family game. I think if your family is really into kind of more involved games, this is a great game. I think this is that next level. When you get into the hobby and you're looking for the next more involved game, this makes it really accessible. I think there is a lot of depth here. There's a lot of strategy, but it's not so complex as to stop anyone getting involved. So I do think this is a great game for people who want to take their hobby to the next level. Something probably not for very young folk, something that you've got to have a Sunday afternoon set aside for, or maybe a rainy one if you live in the UK, which is pretty much every Sunday. But yeah, it's something that I think you can get your teeth into. Really enjoyable. A thinking game as well, I think. So yeah, really cool game. Right. I've already pointed out that I am interviewing the developers of this game. If you've not seen that yet, part one's already out. Part two will be coming out on the next episode, in fact. So look out for it. If you haven't subscribed, damn it, why not? Please subscribe. I really need your subscriptions. I hope you've enjoyed my review. I hope you found it useful. I hope you can make a determination as to whether or not this is the right game for you. It's currently my favourite game, and I'm not just saying that because I'm speaking to the developers. I am saying it because I honestly like this gameplay. If you like this game, there are two others in the series. Like I said, Architects, the one that came before this, and Viscounts, which is a deck builder game. They're very different games, but they sit in the same universe, and they may be worthwhile looking into. Until next time, though, guys, take care of yourselves.